What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining me right here for NXT on Off the Script. This is your official review for December 18th, 2019. A very wrestling-heavy show for NXT last night that was spearheaded by a women's championship match between Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler, and then an opening match for the NXT championship where Adam Cole defended his NXT title against Finn Balor. A very wrestling-heavy show all throughout the 2 hours. I would actually go on record and say this is one of the more wrestling-heavy shows that I think NXT has ever put on. They focused on wrestling mostly throughout most of the show with very little storyline implications outside of a promo with Dakota Kai, and then obviously with the returning Johnny Gargano in the opening match between Balor and Adam Cole. Outside of that, you've seen no other glimpses of storylines moving forward. So this was all about the opening match and setting that match up for whatever's to come for both of those guys and Johnny Gargano. And then you got the end of an era. The end of an NXT era with Shayna Baszler, the queen. The queen has fallen. Rhea Ripley is now your new NXT Women's Champion. That was pretty much the basis of everything on NXT last night. I want to make a statement as far as NXT goes. I did this with AEW last night, and I raised some concerns. I raised some concerns with AEW, and one of my concerns as a fan is them falling into the same groove that Monday Night Raw and SmackDown on Fox currently have. And I don't want them to fall into that same groove. And that groove is rinse and repeat. I don't want to see the same things happen every single week. AEW does not have anywhere close to the roster WWE has. They don't. And I feel, like I mentioned last night, that by the time we get into Revolution, and by the time we get into the early spring months and going on into the summer, that's when I think things are really going to take shape for AEW. That we are going to start seeing matches happen over and over and over again. There's not going to be any variety. How many new matches does AEW have left in the tank to show us that actually have meaning? It's a valid question. It's a valid concern. I'm wondering if Tony Khan, Cody, and everybody else in management is thinking the same thing. That was one of my general concerns coming out of Dynamite last night. My concerns with AEW are with AEW. But NXT, my concerns are a little bit different. I think that it is a good problem that they have so much talent. And the fact that they could actually get away with this. And what I mean by that is, for the last couple of months, NXT has gotten very comfortable with giving takeover-like shows and takeover-like matches on free TV. That is another Monday Night Raw and SmackDown on Fox thing. I don't like seeing pay-per-view quality matches every single week on weekly television. I like when there's stories in place. I like when you build a story between two people in a storyline, or a champion and a challenger, which culminates in a big match on pay-per-view. Then you could go and do whatever you want from there. NXT is a good problem because they have so much talent. But, like I mentioned, they've gotten comfortable with doing takeover-like shows and takeover-like matches on free TV. And the only reason why they've done that is because of AEW. That's another reason, that's another thing to do with the AEW effect. I want you guys to think back to Ciampa and Aleister Black, when Ciampa beat Black for the NXT Championship, and Johnny Gargano got involved and was a big deal. It was a momentous occasion, probably one of the greatest NXT moments in the history of NXT, when Tommaso Ciampa first found Goldie. And we were off to the running with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, which in my eyes is one of the greatest storylines that WWE has ever produced. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. When you watch that match back a couple years ago, That was a big-time match. Like, that was a big-time moment. You really did not... That's a takeover moment right there. That's a takeover moment. You didn't really get that all that often when NXT was back on the WWE Network. Now I feel like we're getting those moments every other week, every other couple of weeks, and that's directly because they're competing with AEW. What I'm trying to get at is, and I'm going to give them an out because this obviously makes sense with whoever's involved here. How much better would it have been if Balor and Cole was on pay-per-view or on a takeover? That's a big-time match. That's a big-time match that you're giving away for free, being that you just brought Finn Balor down into NXT for the reasons of he's tired of how NXT looks and he wants to rebuild NXT in the image that he remembered. Adam Cole is on the greatest run possibly of his entire career. He is the MVP of WWE in 2019. Nobody's even close. But that's a big money match. That's a big money takeover match that you just blew in the open of weekly free TV, commercial free, simply because AEW is hyping up a big show. I mean, how often are you going to be able to do that? How often are you going to feel like that is the right decision before you start thinking, maybe we should have saved this for a takeover? Would WWE have been able to book this and get us, storyline-wise, through December, January, and half of February, with these two going at it, to make the takeover match important? I don't know. I don't know how the storyline would have developed. Maybe on one hand, yeah, they are giving away free matches and they are taking a match away from TakeOver. On the other hand, it is NXT. I think they do a great job of telling the story. It would have been intriguing and interesting to see where they go with that. Same thing happening with Shayna Baszler and Rhea Ripley. Now, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned this, that the story between these two, I don't even think it would have been economical to even take this to TakeOver. Like, what else is there to tell? What other story is there? You've done literally everything that you possibly could with Shayna Baszler. You've done everything that you possibly could in the storytelling about Rhea Ripley overcoming the odds and just coming into her own as the most dominant female since Shayna Baszler in NXT. Would NXT have even gotten us to a point to care about this on February 16th at a TakeOver? Still, it's a big money match. It's a main event match, but I want you guys to look at the ending of NXT, and I want you to tell me which would you would have rather seen on this match on free TV with that ending, or on TakeOver. Because I look at that ending, I look at how they booked Rhea Ripley in that match, I see everything that they threw at the wall to get this woman over, and then the celebration of her beating Shayna Baszler, which is one of the more celebrated reigns in the women's division in NXT, and it would have made for a much better TakeOver moment, a much bigger moment, but I feel like they had to scale it down because of competition from AEW. And I feel like we were robbed of a TakeOver moment. Now, some of you might not really care about that. Now, I am somebody that looks at the grander picture here. It would have been a momentous moment for Rhea Ripley in front of 12,000, 13,000 people at a TakeOver. Meanwhile, they're giving that moment and that situation away in front of 400 or 500 people at Full Sail University. All for the spirit of competition. Then I look at the other side of the spectrum. Then I look at the other side of the coin, and I think, well, I don't even think I would be as interested if we got this match on February 16th, because if you look at Shayna Baszler and the progress that she's making, she was in the Survivor Series main event with Becky and Bayley. WWE clearly is grooming her for a main roster run. That's another story in itself. She more than likely is going to be in the Royal Rumble. If Ronda is not in the Royal Rumble, Shayna Baszler is winning the Royal Rumble, and Shayna Baszler is going to go to WrestleMania and fight Becky Lynch for the Monday Night Raw Women's Championship, and more than likely going to win. So obviously, Shayna Baszler has a whole nother portion of her career with a huge question mark around it that we can finally say that is going to happen. She's going to be on the main roster. So you know when the time is up for somebody. Last night really felt like it was Shayna's time. Her time was up. But I do question that WWE could have easily saved this for a TakeOver. And it would have been even more momentous for Rhea Ripley. I don't want to see NXT get into the habits of giving away free matches like this every other week, every other 2 weeks, just to combat AEW. They have so much talent. And you can look up and down this show. You could look at a Kushida, you could look at a Cameron Grimes, you could look at a Pete Dunne, you could look at a Travis Banks, you could look at a Damien Priest, and a Killian Dane, and a Keith Lee, and a Dominic Dijakovic, and an Undisputed Era, right? Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong. They got Austin Theory, who's making his way to TV next week. They're going to show you Austin Theory and Roderick Strong that was taped a couple of weeks back. He's in the wings. He's going to be one of the biggest things in NXT. My prediction is going to be one of the biggest things in WWE, period. I'm talking about John Cena level big for Austin Theory. They got so much talent. They don't need to give away these free matches every single week. That's my concern. I want to see less of that because you got 6 takeovers every single year. I want you to save these matches for TakeOver. I'm not saying have every single big match at a TakeOver. I'm not saying you can't do these big matches every single, I'm not saying you can't do these big matches once in a blue on a regular NXT TV taping. But I don't want them to get comfortable all for the sake of the AEW effect. Because it's very difficult to watch, even though I loved last night's show. It's very difficult to see a Balor-Cole match given away for 15 minutes when you know that they could go upwards towards 30 and make it epic. And I loved Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler, but it's also very hard to think of what could have been if Rhea Ripley's celebration was in front of 13,000 people at a TakeOver show, celebrating that she took down the Queen, Shayna Baszler, right? And instead we got it in front of Full Sail University. Just something that I'm bringing to the table. I'm not making a big deal about it. I just don't want them to get comfortable in giving away free TV matches. Or giving away big pay-per-view TV matches on NXT TV on USA. That's all I'm saying. But we're going to go over what happened on last night's show. Johnny Gargano was one of the major focuses on NXT TV last night. He was one of 2 storylines that have been planted for you guys to ponder and think about going into 2020. He made his return. He actually cost Finn Balor the NXT Championship against Adam Cole. We'll discuss that and everything in the psychology of the Adam Cole-Finn Balor match. A near flawless match. Absolutely beautiful. Could have even went another 10 minutes. I would have sat there for half an hour watching those guys go. With no interruptions at all, man. Glued to the TV screen. It was a thing of beauty. Johnny Gargano's back, and obviously that sets up Balor versus Johnny Gargano at TakeOver in Portland. We got Kushida and Cameron Grimes. Unbelievable match. A TakeOver match in itself. Both guys are absolutely fantastic. We'll go over that. That seems to be all but over. Maybe. Kushida got Cameron Grimes' hat back, and after last night, Grimes got his hat back. It seems to me that Cameron Grimes was more upset about losing his hat to Kushida than The Miz was with Bray Wyatt infiltrating his daughter's bedroom. I don't know. This is the differences between the main roster and NXT. It's just bizarre. Santana Garrett, Io Shirai, that was another match that we seen on NXT. 2 spotlighted women that I think are going to be a big deal in the women's division, especially Io Shirai. Santana Garrett, obviously they signed her. Big things to come for her as well, in my opinion. We got Pete Dunne and Travis Banks. At first glance, I looked at this and I'm like, well, Pete Dunne has been in NXT local for a couple of months now. And Travis Banks is obviously an NXT UK performer. But when you're building the Worlds Collide hype and the big deal about Worlds Collide Royal Rumble weekend, it's very hard to get invested when you bring an NXT UK talent and Travis Banks to put him against Pete Dunne, who's an NXT UK talent, kind of. So it was a little bizarre seeing that as far as the hype for tonight on the Worlds Collide portion, but it was a great match. I could have watched those guys go another 10 minutes. That was fucking awesome. And then obviously Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler was the main event. The one thing we need to focus on here is how good Rhea Ripley is. And the one thing I want to bring to everybody's attention, honestly, is how she has been skyrocketed and why I think her push actually supersedes Becky Lynch. How organic it's been. How everybody has just taken to her as the actual biggest thing in the women's division right now. The way that she has portrayed her character is exactly what Becky Lynch should be, yet Becky Lynch kind of comes off somewhat like that, but also at the same time kind of cringe. Becky Lynch is not embracing the fullness of being the rebel character, the hard ass, the badass that she is. Meanwhile, Rhea Ripley does that. And I want you guys to focus on how Rhea Ripley is an absolute killer. And she demolishes everything in her path, yet somehow the way the match was produced last night, WWE not only portrayed Rhea Ripley as a killer, but they also got her to play that underdog Johnny Gargano come from behind babyface role. That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing to me, and she may be the total package when it comes to the future of women's wrestling. And I honestly think last night was the end of an era for Shayna Baszler. What's to come for her, I don't know. We only have one thing and one thing on our minds, and that is the Royal Rumble coming up at the end of January, which I think Shayna Baszler is going to have a major presence in. So we're going to go over the show tonight in detail. Thank you guys so very much for joining me on the podcast. This is NXT on Off the Script, December 19th, 2019. For last night's show. Make sure you guys follow me on social media at JD from NY206. That is on Twitter and Instagram. Do both. I would really appreciate it. We got a great podcast called Off the Script coming up tomorrow afternoon around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon right before SmackDown on Fox, episode 305, sponsored by my good friends over at Tavor. I got a beer unboxing. We're going to go through a couple rounds of beer with JD tomorrow, man. Some great shit for the holidays coming up. We'll be unboxing that and looking at that. Kind of makes me thirsty, man, because I'm looking at a gingerbread stout that I kind of want to open right now, sadly, because I love gingerbread. But off the script, we got some stories brewing for tomorrow. News on Jeff Hardy, news on Stephanie McMahon about how they are always open to listening to the WWE Universe. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. We got a ton of news, so make sure you guys tune in to that tomorrow, episode 305 of Off the Script. If you guys missed any of the other content on the channel, Monday Night Raw, AEW Off the Script Elite, AEW Dynamite, some video game gameplay coming up later tonight as well with Luigi's Mansion. Lots of stuff. I have been very busy in December, so make sure you guys check it all. I know it's a lot of content, but it's always there for you guys to go back and watch or rewatch if you want to watch it more than one time. Down in the description, go and check that stuff out. I would greatly appreciate it. Follow me on Patreon at JD from NY206. If you guys want to show some extra appreciation towards the podcast, hit that subscribe button down below. As always, that's the most important deal. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that bell for all notifications. And the podcast today is brought to you by Audible. audibletrial.com/offthescript. 30 days free when you sign up. You're going to get 30 days free of their service and one free audiobook of your choice. You guys got over 200,000 choices to choose from, a lot of which are wrestling related. As you see there, Terry Funk, Chris Jericho, Justin Roberts, Shawn Michaels, Lex Luger, Jim Ross, Daniel Bryan, DDP, Dusty Rhodes, Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, Hulk Hogan, so on and so forth. Thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast via Audible. Once again, that's audibletrial.com/offthescript. NXT started off last night with Adam Cole defending the NXT Championship against Finn Balor commercial-free on USA Network, all because AEW was hyping up their show to be a big deal. WWE wanted to get the one-up on AEW. They announced earlier in the week that Cole and Balor will open the show commercial-free. AEW countered NXT with their own big-time match to open Dynamite, which was Kenny Omega and Adam Hangman Page against the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix. Also commercial-free. The Wednesday Night Wars, folks. The Wednesday Night Wars. This match was fucking great. Fucking great. And I stress the word fucking. This was great. 15 minutes, and I could have watched these guys go another 15. This was a very interesting dynamic. And the only way this match would have worked and come off this good is in NXT. Adam Cole is a heel. We know he's a heel. When he speaks, he's a heel. When he speaks, he shits on the fans. But for some reason, it's like an abusive relationship. When Adam Cole speaks, he's a heel. But when he's in the ring, people love to chant with him. People love to say his name. They love to use his catchphrase. It's almost as if he's the biggest babyface in the entire company when he's out in the ring and he's doing his thing. Balor has been a heel. Balor heel turned on Johnny Gargano. Balor has been in matches with Keith Lee and Tommaso Ciampa, two over baby faces. So he's been heel in that situation as well. He's come off in promos as a heel. Yet he comes out to the crowd and people are still doing the hands in the air. He's still being received as partially a babyface. So you got two heels in this match getting slight babyface reactions that are really heels at the end of the day. This match would have died 1,000 deaths on Monday Night Raw. In NXT, it worked like fucking a beautiful disaster. I don't know if that's the proper terminology I should be using, because in no way, shape, or form was this a disaster, but it just defies all wrestling logic. Really. Two heels going at it, which I don't mind at all. We should see more of that. But not everybody's Finn Balor and Adam Cole. This match will have only worked in NXT. This match does not work on the main roster. If you do the same exact thing you did here and put it on Raw and SmackDown, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It will only work in NXT. Johnny Gargano made his presence known. How he got there? Let's go through the motions here. We got dueling chants at the start. Obviously, Adam Cole, Bay, and Finn Balor. Balor got a 2 count quick after a basement dropkick. And I love the psychology of this match. I really did. So, Balor stomped on Cole, hit him with a wrecking ball dropkick. Balor was obviously in control at this point. He was on the apron measuring for a punt kick. And Cole struck with a super kick that took Balor's feet out from underneath him on the ring apron. Now, I love the fact, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but I did. The kick, or the leg that Balor was going to kick him with, was the right leg. Adam Cole kicked out the left leg, which I loved. And that was a focus of his attack on his side of his offense. Instead of kicking the leg that was coming at him with the punt kick, he kicked the other leg that was open right then and there. I love that. So, the punt kick failed. That turned the momentum into Adam Cole's favor. Cole would obviously then attack the leg and go after Balor. Cole targeted the leg and cut down Balor through most of the beginning portions of this match. Balor made a comeback, got a near fall. Balor was going to work when Cole cut him off with a backstabber. Balor came back just a few moments later with a sling blade. Cole shot back with a super kick that was so Shawn Michaels-esque. It was unreal. You look at Adam Cole and the way he moves and his in-ring psychology and the way he delivers his super kick, man. If you didn't tell me that Adam Cole is a protege of Shawn Michaels, it is so easy to tell who Adam Cole is being trained by, or who his mentor is, or who he is learning from, or who he idolizes and finds to be his biggest influence. It's easy to see when you're watching him work. It's a great thing. And I do think that Adam Cole has the makings, especially in the ring. I'm not saying anybody's going to go out there and be the next Shawn Michaels, but in the ring, certainly has the capabilities to be the next Shawn Michaels. And from that super kick, 2.5, great near fall, trading kicks back and forth. Balor then struck with a Pele kick out of nowhere. Beautiful spot. Both fell down on the mat. Cole fell over after the Pele kick, actually on top of Balor, which made for a very impromptu near fall in the match. So they each counted each other's big moves as they kept trading near falls. Cole then caught Balor with a Yushi Goroshi. Balor fought back with a double stomp and a shotgun drop kick that leveled Adam Cole. Balor was slow to capitalize on this because the knee was the issue. The psychology of the match, the story of the match was Adam Cole kicking out Balor's left foot, or his left leg rather, in the beginning portions of this match after a failed punt kick. Cole attempted a Panama Sunrise off the apron, but Balor with a counter backdrop on Cole to the floor. Balor then, obviously, you know, the one thing that NXT likes to do is they like to make epic moments out of unpredictability. And one of their things as of late is knocking the barricade down and pretending to knock some of the WWE fans in Full Sail University over in this big oh my god moment. It literally is like an oh my god moment in one of the WWE 2K games. WWE has gone to the well once too often with this barricade spot because we've seen it with Gargano, we've seen it with Balor time and time again in the weeks leading up to this, in the weeks after the Johnny Gargano spot. Ciampa had a spot with the barricade, I think, as well. So the barricade collapses again after a shotgun dropkick by Finn Balor, and that was it. Barricade went down, fans went down, and that was pretty much the same thing that we've seen in the weeks leading up to this. It seems to be a weekly gimmick in NXT, and I think we need to move away from that. It's kind of getting a little repetitive, and it's not as special anymore as the first time we've seen it. Balor went up for the coup de grace, but Cole avoided it, delivered a last shot, and he did not get the cover there. Balor with a lariat and a shotgun dropkick set up another coup de grace. Balor looked to follow up with a 1916, but all of a sudden, Balor was actually facing the stage for the 1916. He stopped. And I don't know what he was looking at because we didn't immediately see Johnny Gargano come out. All the fans seemed to get up and rise and look towards the stage. Johnny Gargano walks out with an NXT for Life t-shirt and his smiley face logo on the shirt. I feel like I have to pick this one up from WWE Shop. Johnny Gargano comes out, and I love the fact he did not come out with theme music. This is an old school move that I think goes very unappreciated. You don't need to come out and put the center of attention on yourself. I love the fact that Johnny Gargano came out with no theme music. He just wanted to make his presence known. When he comes out with theme music, then you're taking the spotlight away from what's going on in the ring. Right? You got the big theme music blaring. Oh my God, Johnny Gargano's back. He's back from injury, blah, 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 right? You're going to take away from that moment in the ring. Meanwhile, Johnny Gargano doesn't need music. Johnny Gargano knows exactly why he's there. Johnny Gargano chose his spot perfectly. Hey, Finn, I'm here. What are you going to do now? Go ahead, finish your match. Balor was the one who looked at Johnny Gargano and was like, the fuck are you doing here? So Balor in the 1916 obviously did not complete the 1916. So Johnny Gargano's on the stage. This is Johnny Gargano's return after being blasted by Finn Balor with a 1916 on the steel ramp that actually led him to get staples in his head. Balor was distracted. Cole hit him with a low blow because the referee was looking at Johnny Gargano. He was right in Johnny Gargano's face. Get out of here. Let me finish this match. Go back. So with the referee's back turned, Adam Cole hit a low blow. Balor went down. Last shot. 1, 2, 3. Adam Cole retains the NXT Championship. Excellent match. A near perfect wrestling match. Both guys were absolutely flawless. I could have watched this match another 15 minutes or so. It was that good. Big time match given away for free on TV. But I'm not going to hold NXT to the criticisms I would on the main roster. This was obviously done for A, competition against AEW, and more importantly, this was done to set up the return of Johnny Gargano, so you now have a seed planted as to what one of the major matches at TakeOver Portland is going to be. Johnny Gargano versus Finn Balor. It's going to be a storyline that's going to continue all through January. We're going to get the match on February 16th at TakeOver, and I can't fucking wait. I honestly can't wait. That match is going to be killer. I don't know how the fans received Johnny Gargano last night because Johnny Gargano is one of those guys where you look at him and it's like, some people love him, some people hate him. Some people might have looked, being that Full Sail is very fickle and very picky. One week they love you, one week they fucking hate you. I don't know if they looked at Johnny Gargano in the vein of, oh my God, he's back. I can't believe Johnny's back. This is going to be a great match with Finn Balor. He's getting his revenge. Or they looked at Johnny Gargano in the form of, bro, go the fuck away. You're ruining this great match. We don't give a shit about you. I hope that's not the case. I really hope that's not the case because Johnny has this tendency, as of late especially, where people are kind of 50-50 on him. Probably not 50-50, maybe like 65-35, something like that. But I hope that they are happy that Johnny Gargano's back because what we're about to get with Finn Balor and Johnny Gargano, this is the reason why you brought Finn Balor down to NXT in the first place. Shit like this. He was never meant to win the NXT Championship. And if we get engaging storyline that makes Finn Balor look better than he's ever looked on the main roster, that's all I care about. The development of character, good storylines that I can invest my time in, and guys that I actually care about. This is one of those times. This is going to be fucking awesome. Adam Cole, what he does with the NXT Championship, I don't know. I'm proposing, if anybody's listening to me out there in NXT land, Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor is all but confirmed for the TakeOver show in Portland. Adam Cole and Tommaso Ciampa is a possibility. I think they're saving Ciampa for WrestleMania because we got February 16th, and then I think April 6th is TakeOver Tampa Bay. Now, that's pretty close. You know, you got February and then April. So they got half of February, which is a leap year this year. We got 29 days of February this year, and then all of March, and then 1 week in April. They got some time. It's not the normal amount of time for a TakeOver show or in between TakeOver shows. They could do Adam Cole versus Ciampa in Portland. They could do it at WrestleMania weekend. But if they don't do Ciampa and Cole in Portland, I say we do Adam Cole and Keith Lee. Now, the bigger question is, how do we get Keith Lee to a point where people are going to really take him as the next credible challenger in line for Adam Cole's NXT Championship? And at that point, how over is Keith Lee going to be? Is he going to be over to a point where he's going to be expendable and then maybe move him to the main roster? Because that was my opinion a couple of weeks ago. Or is he going to be over to a point where people want to see him take down Adam Cole and win the NXT Championship? Because I proposed, if that is the case, Adam Cole could lose the NXT Championship to Keith Lee, and then Tommaso Ciampa can go back to his heel-like ways and do what he needs to do to take the title back, turn heel, and then we get Keith Lee and Tommaso Ciampa in Tampa at TakeOver. Because Keith Lee's going to be a very over babyface, and I don't see anybody in that arena not wanting to see Keith Lee win that title. It's going to be a very interesting dynamic. They got some ways that they could go about this. It's going to be very interesting to see. I gave you my 2 cents on that. This was an awesome match. Johnny Gargano at the end of the match took a folding chair, attacked Balor after the match. Stiff shots with the chair. Gargano laid him out with the chair, and that was pretty much the end of that. Johnny got his revenge. He got the steel chair, and he'll see Finn Balor, I assume, in Portland for TakeOver. Damien Priest versus Killian Dane. Like I said, this was a very wrestling-heavy show, man. That was one of the very, very, very few storylines that progressed on this show. This was a very wrestling-heavy show. Damien Priest versus Killian Dane. This one went 14 minutes. Damien Priest wins, and he sold the ribs. We seen a exclusive piece where Damien Priest was being attended to by NXT physicians. 2 cracked ribs. He had kinesio tape on his ribs. He came out with the kinesio tape on. He sold the majority of this match, and Killian Dane is a loser in this one. Damien Priest wins even with the broken ribs or the cracked ribs. And I have to say that even though the work by both of these guys and Pete Dunne has been very, very hard-working and hard-hitting. Hard work by all 3 of these guys in this feud. I'm to a point where I'm just kind of over Damien Priest and Killian Dane. I do want to see them move on to something else in 2020. And Damien Priest is going to be a big time factor in NXT in 2020. I'm thinking, Killer Kross just got released from Impact Wrestling, finally. His girlfriend is with NXT. Scarlett Bordeaux is in NXT. How likely is it we see Killer Kross come on over to WWE? Will he be able to keep the name Killer Kross? I guarantee you that name is going to be changed upon WWE if he does come to WWE. He might be known as Kross, but it might be something other than Killer Kross. How great would it be to see a feud between Killer Kross and Damien Priest in 2020? Just throwing that out there. This was a very hard-hitting match. Damien Priest sold the majority of this match with the cracked ribs. So, fast-forwarding to the end of this thing, we got some forearms flying back and forth between both men. Flying back elbow by Priest. Lariat by Priest after a comeback. Flying back elbow in the corner. Priest wanted the suplex, but he couldn't because of the cracked ribs. Fired himself up. He finally hit the suplex, even with the cracked ribs. Dane is laying on the mat. Priest went up top. Dane rolled out of the ring on the opposite side of the ring. Springboard tope by Priest, which is always impressive for a man that size. I'll always say it. Back in, we got the Uranagi that he calls the South of Heaven. Gotta love it. One of my favorite Slayer songs. And I do think that I seen a tweet by Damien Priest and Eric Bugenhagen. My boy Bugenhagen. They were together at a In Flames concert down in Orlando. Good stuff there. Their new album was not bad at all. Not like old In Flames, but I mean it's passable for what they've been doing, or I should say what they've recently been doing. So that was nice to see them enjoying themselves and enjoying some good old-fashioned metal. So, South of Heaven Uranagi by Priest. He only gets a 2 count there on the near fall. Priest wanted the Reckoning, but Dane escaped. Dane dropped an elbow on Priest for a 2 count. Dane then was in slight control here. He was advancing Priest, splashed him in the corner. Electric chair, but Priest hit a victory roll out of nowhere for a 2 count. Cyclone kick by Priest. Priest wanted a powerbomb, but again, the ribs were a factor. He couldn't do it. Slamming a senton by Dane. He missed the Vader bomb, and he got all of Damien Priest's knees instead. Priest then went for the Reckoning, got it, got the victory, and Damien Priest beats the big man, Killian Dane, in what was a big man match for 15 minutes. Now, I'm surprised here because Dane, he beat, I think it was Pete Dunne, wasn't it? He beat Pete Dunne, and he kind of motioned that he was coming after the NXT title. So I don't know where they're going with Killian Dane or Damien Priest or Pete Dunne. The only thing that I could really piece together is that NXT Creative really doesn't have anything solid or concrete for them, and they're just kind of, and the feeling that they have is that they're just floating in mid-card purgatory right now with really nothing going on. Hopefully that changes for all three. All three are very talented. All three are very good. And I want to see these guys move on up to something a little bit more important, but patience is key. Not everybody could be in the NXT title picture or the NXT North American title picture. Gonna have to wait for your turn, but I want them away from each other because I think we've seen all that we could between all three of these guys. They're doing nothing but trading wins back and forth. You got Priest winning one, Damien Priest is winning one, Killian Dane's winning one, Pete Dunne's winning one. It seems like it's a 3-way version of 50-50 booking. Can't have that. Let's move them on to something else and get them into something a little bit more important in 2020. Kushida stole Cameron Grimes' hat. We go from one great match to another good match to a fucking fantastic match. This might have been the best match of the entire night, to be quite honest with you. Kushida and Cameron Grimes, 2 studs. Kushida loses this one to Cameron Grimes in a fantastic match that went nearly 14 minutes. Excellent back and forth between these two. Now, the whole story here is that Kushida stole Cameron Grimes' hat. And like I mentioned before, it seemed like Kushida stealing Cameron Grimes' hat made Cameron Grimes so upset to a point where he'd do anything to get it back. He seemed more upset than Rusev, losing his wife to Bobby Lashley. He seemed more upset about the hat than The Miz and Bray Wyatt. I mean, just go look at The Miz and Bray Wyatt at the TLC pay-per-view. It's like nothing. The guy infiltrated his home and started playing with his daughter in her bedroom. Creepy dolls and everything. Showed up on the baby monitor, and The Miz didn't really give 2 shits about it. Or at least he didn't come off that way. Here we got Cameron Grimes fucking going to the ends of the earth for his fucking hat. It's a nice hat. I don't know what it's worth, where he got it from. Maybe there's some sentimental value. Maybe it's the only thing he owns. I don't fucking know. But Cameron Grimes was pissed that Kushida took his hat. This was a hard-hitting match. This was strong style to the fucking T, something that Kushida is very, very familiar with. So we got a drop kick by Kushida here. Rolling crucifix goes for a 2 count. We go to commercial break, split screen commercial. Grimes is in control during the commercial break. So Grimes is working on Kushida. He's got Kushida draped over his knee. Hit some forearms on Kushida's back. Backbreaker by Cameron Grimes. Kushida started to throw some fists to escape. Hit a handspring back elbow, which looked beautiful. Some forearms to follow. Arm drag, basement dropkick, flatliner. Great offense by Kushida. Very, very good offense. Cross arm breaker by Kushida. Grimes rolled to the ropes to evade the submission hold. Kushida dropkick Grimes' forearm for the hoverboard lock, but Grimes reversed and slammed Kushida for 2. Both guys on the floor selling at this point. Kushida hit a Blade Runner on Grimes for a close near fall. And at that point, Grimes was on the second turnbuckle. Grimes with a delayed German for 2. Both were selling. Grimes charged into a boot, got dumped. Kushida went and hit a senton. He rolled over Grimes mostly to the outside. This was fucking absolutely ridiculous. He goes up top and hits a senton or a swanton off the top, and he hit all Matt. He hit mostly Matt and just a little bit of Cameron Grimes. So at that point, I'm like, this guy's got to be fucked up. He looked disheveled, did Kushida. I think there was like a bruising on top of his lip. After the swanton bomb off the top to the outside, he hit his lower back. His tailbone's got to be fucking hurting him this morning. So that looked brutal. So he hit that swanton. Ref counted to 7. Kushida rolled Grimes back in. He followed him. Both men are back in the ring. Both went up to the top turnbuckle. Grimes fought off a hoverboard lock. And this was a similar position in which he had Walter in. Kushida had Grimes in the same position. Kushida powerbombed Grimes from the top. And it was a very close near fall. The crowd was chanting, that was 3. They were legitimately chanting, that was 3. That was 3. Grimes escaped a couple of moves and then hit his big, I think they call it the caveman stomp. Fucking absolutely blasted Kushida. And that came out of nowhere. And that is a thing of beauty, man. That's another one of those moves like the Black Mass and the RKO that literally comes out of nowhere. He can hit it out of nowhere, and he did. And he wins in what was a fantastic match, back and forth. Grimes got the hat back, and I'm thinking that this was only done to kind of give Kushida his in-ring time back after missing a couple of months. And then Cameron Grimes, he lost to Raul Mendoza because he took out Raul Mendoza, right? He got that fluke victory over Cameron Grimes last week. And this is going to establish Cameron Grimes as a big-time player in the North American Championship title picture. I really do. Both of these guys, in fact. I would be lying to you if I said I didn't want to see this match again. Maybe we'll see a North American Championship match somewhere in 2020 with these two guys, and we'll relive this back in 2020. I think that's great. It's a great idea. Grimes wins. Big win for him. Kushida is fucking fantastic. I got to see more of Kushida in 2020. I want to see him more in a prominent role in 2020. Cameron Grimes, man, coming out of that breakout tournament, he didn't win the tournament, but by the way he's looking and by the way he's being booked, he might as well have won that thing because he is absolutely on fire right now in NXT, and good for him. Santana Garrett, we got her against Io Shirai. This one went 4 minutes. This was more just a showcase match for both. Santana Garrett looked strong. Io Shirai looked strong, but Io Shirai got the victory here in 4 minutes. Nice back and forth. We got Io Shirai winning here with a moonsault in the corner, and that was pretty much it. Santana Garrett, she's got to warm up. Well, the fans, I should say, have to warm up to Santana Garrett. We got to see a little bit more of her before the fans start fully investing their time into her. Io Shirai, obviously, loved by everybody. I mentioned to myself last night, I'm looking at Io Shirai and how, I want her to be a part of the bigger picture in NXT next year. She might be on the main roster next year. There might be a move to the main roster next year for Io Shirai. I don't know. But I'm thinking to myself how it's the state of the women's division with Io and then Kairi and then Asuka. You look at Io and you feel like she's a failure waiting to happen on the main roster. Like, I asked myself, how could Vince McMahon look at Io Shirai now and not love her and not want to push her? I mean, that woman is absolutely phenomenal. It's so stupid to think that someone like Io is going to have a very difficult time on the main roster when it shouldn't be a very difficult time at all to book someone like Io Shirai. Just give me her and Sasha Banks a couple of times. I'm good to go. It's very easy to book Io Shirai. It's very easy to book the women, but WWE just doesn't give a shit. NXT doesn't have that problem. They got the best women's division in the world, but Monday Night Raw and SmackDown seem to have a very difficult time as to booking the women. This was a showcase match, like I said. Io Shirai got the victory. That's all that mattered here. Santana Garrett, they'll probably getting you ready for more Santana Garrett in 2020. Pete Dunne versus Travis Banks. This is a Hype for Worlds Collide. This was another great match. Hard-hitting match. Very close near falls in this thing. Very believable near falls. They fit as much into 10 minutes that they possibly could. Hype for the Worlds Collide. I found it to be a little bit weird with Pete Dunne kind of being an NXT regular for the last couple of months, even though we still kind of associate NXT UK with Pete Dunne because he's Pete Dunne and he's the longest reigning champion of all time over there. And Travis Banks, who's an NXT UK regular, this is Worlds Collide, so it's kind of weird looking at it at first glance that this is Worlds Collide when both guys are so ingrained in the NXT UK, you know? But Travis Banks here gave Pete Dunne one hell of a fight. This one went 10 minutes with Pete Dunne winning with a bitter end. Dunn was in control during the commercial break, or actually, I'm sorry, Travis Banks was in commercial during the commercial break. Pete Dunne was in control after their return from commercial break. He charged in the corner. Banks hit a dropkick and a cannonball. Dunn bailed, and Banks hit a tope. Back in, springboard dropkick, double stomp by Banks for 2. Banks' chest was lit up like a Christmas tree. I mean, why wouldn't it? You're in the ring with Pete Dunne. So Banks wanted Slice of Heaven, but Dunn reversed it and hit an X-plex for a 2 count. Came out of nowhere. Both guys kicking each other back and forth. Up top now on the top turnbuckle, Banks hit a sunset flip from the top, but Dunn flipped through. Bitter end attempt. Banks reversed it. Slice of Heaven was blocked in reverse. Kiwi Crusher by Banks only gets a 2 count. Really great stuff by these two guys. Banks charged the corner, but Dunn hit a powerbomb up to the top turnbuckle. X-plex, avalanche X-plex off the top, followed by a bitter end, and that was it. That was it. Great match. This was easily the best showcase match for the Worlds Collide so far, and I want to see more of this. This is what Worlds Collide is going to be on that Saturday before the Royal Rumble. I'm all in. So I'm very interested to see what WWE does for the build for Worlds Collide. I expect we see more NXT UK talent, more so than we've seen. We've seen one match hyping the show every single week for the last couple of weeks. I think we will see more NXT UK talent come on into NXT, and the show is primarily going to be built around that while we get Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor being built, and then Adam Cole and his next challenger, maybe a North American Championship situation. They got 2 hours now. They can fit a lot of this stuff in on 2 hours of weekly TV every single week leading to Worlds Collide, and then obviously towards TakeOver. So it's going to be very interesting how they manage both in the weeks to come. Kathy Kelly caught up with Dakota Kai. She has 8 staples in her head after the table spot with Mia Yim, but she said, who won the match? I did. She'll continue to beat every woman in the division until she's NXT Women's Champion. So I'm thinking to myself, she wants to be NXT Women's Champion. That's her end result or end goal. Good. But the NXT Championship in storyline form is not going to come against Shayna Baszler because they're both heels. Dakota Kai and Rhea Ripley have a history stemming back from War Games because of what Dakota Kai did to Tegan Nox and what she did to Rhea Ripley's team to put them in jeopardy of losing, even though they did not lose. She tried to get one over and she failed at it. Dakota Kai's not going after the NXT Championship around Shayna Baszler's waist. She's going to go after the NXT Championship around Rhea Ripley's waist. So just by that promo alone, it kind of gave you a glimpse as to where WWE's going with the women's division and the next title program. Rhea Ripley and Dakota Kai is on the horizon. Main event, Rhea Ripley versus Shayna Baszler, NXT Women's Championship match. This was awesome. This was awesome. This was awesome. The one thing I want to stress here is how good Shayna Baszler is. I don't want to go out there and say this was Shayna Baszler's best match in NXT, but Shayna Baszler's worked her ass off to a point where it's very difficult not to respect the work that she's done in NXT. I think she is going to have a great run on the main roster, though I'm very worried because she's not Ronda Rousey. She's not blonde. She's not a model, right? She's got no chest. And I'm being open and honest with you guys. WWE likes to push buxom blondes on the main roster. They really do. Everybody that has some sort of wrestling background or is better than the blondes or better than their chosen ones, they kind of get held back. And that's the God-honest truth. Asuka, Kairi Sane, Sasha Banks, right? Ember Moon, Ruby Riott. They don't fit the typical WWE mold. Bayley. They don't fit the typical WWE mold. Unless you're Ronda, you know, and you're somebody like that, you'll fit right in. Charlotte, Alexa, Lacey Evans, right? Those are their tried and true. Shayna Baszler is going to have a very difficult time in my eyes getting accustomed to the main roster. Because she doesn't fit the bill by her looks whatsoever. And I hope that all of that is thrown out the window and Shayna is just as successful on the main roster as she is in NXT. So I'm worried. I've called Shayna Baszler being called up 4 previous times, probably more than that, in the entire year. You felt that this was the end. You knew that this was the end. You just know. When you know, you know. You feel it. And with the meteoric rise of Rhea Ripley here, it is obviously the end of the line for Shayna Baszler. What's to come for Shayna? I don't know. Possible Royal Rumble win. If Ronda is not in the Royal Rumble, we're getting Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. If Ronda is in the Royal Rumble, Ronda's winning the Royal Rumble, we're getting our one-on-one match with Becky and Ronda, and Charlotte's going to get Shayna Baszler. That's my prediction. With Rhea Ripley's build, you see how much WWE loves her. It literally came out of nowhere, to be honest with you. You know, I did not expect Rhea Ripley to come to NXT and kind of get the push that she's gotten. When I looked at Rhea Ripley first showing up in NXT when NXT was moved to the USA Network, it was more like, oh, this is a one-off. Oh, they're just giving you kind of a dream match in the NXT universe, right? Rhea Ripley, big, tough, strong, legit, badass, going up against NXT's women's champion, a badass in her own right, Shayna Baszler. I thought it was a one-off. I did not think that it would have built to what we've seen here. The build of Rhea Ripley has been organic, it's been natural, it's been just a thing of beauty. It makes you really appreciate and love pro wrestling. This is why we love pro wrestling, to see moments like this. I don't want to harp on the fact that this is a moment that should have happened on a takeover. You guys heard that in the beginning. And even though you could make an argument for that, I also, on the flip side, understand that maybe nobody wanted to see this match and build leading up to a February pay-per-view. Maybe there wasn't enough resources or enough storyline to be told between these two, and they wanted to blow it off. And then plus you got Rhea Ripley, you know, as hot as she is, it would have been stupid to not give her the championship. And then on top of that, you got Shayna Baszler, who's probably got main roster plans up and down for her right now with Becky Lynch. So it was like a perfect storm of things. It was a perfect reason for Rhea Ripley to win the championship to begin with. Even though I don't want WWE to get comfortable with giving big moments like this away on free TV. I would rather them happen at a takeover. But it seems to be that there was so much working against them here that they had to do the match, and I understand that. Rhea Ripley is Becky Lynch. Rhea Ripley is what Becky Lynch should be. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just think that Becky Lynch, you know, she really doesn't resonate the way that Rhea Ripley does. And I mean that not so much in fan interaction or fan reception, but in portrayal of character. Becky Lynch tries to be a badass. The only time I got a sense of Becky Lynch being a badass, and again, I mean this in no negative way about Becky Lynch, but the only time I got a sense of Becky Lynch really being a badass is when she got her nose broken by Nia Jax, and she started swinging a fucking kendo stick, I think, at that time. And it was for the build of Survivor Series last year, and you've seen her in the stands, blood dripping down her face. That's a badass. That visual made Becky Lynch. I don't think Becky Lynch has really been the same since then. I think Becky Lynch is and I mean this, again, I don't want Becky Lynch fucking fans to come at me and start fucking swinging for the fences or come at me with fucking pitchforks and shit. This is the God honest truth. Becky Lynch in that moment was a star born. That's a badass Becky Lynch. I feel like WWE has kind of conformed Becky Lynch to be the Becky Lynch that they want her to be. I feel like they really haven't accepted the badass that Becky Lynch is. I feel like they deviated away from that, and we got this half-ass version of a badass woman on WWE TV. It's all riddled around some fucking stupid agenda. I'm the man, right? And she is what she is. She's actually more of a badass on Twitter than she is in storyline or in the ring. And I don't get that. And it doesn't come off well. It's not an act that I fully embrace because even though I want to enjoy Becky Lynch and what she does, she doesn't come off like Rhea Ripley does. She is believable. Rhea Ripley's believable. Becky Lynch is sometimes believable when she sits down with Shayna Baszler like she did during the Survivor Series build. That was fucking awesome. When she cut her promo on Asuka, that was awesome, right? Her match with Sasha Banks and her promos with Sasha and her match in Hell in a Cell with Sasha, that was awesome. But those opportunities and those situations are very few and far between. Becky Lynch has not been a badass for the majority of her run. Rhea Ripley has been a badass since she's made this transformation into what we currently see now. And that has progressed every single week. And the best thing about this is the journey that we've seen Rhea Ripley on. And it's organic. They haven't forced it. They haven't shoved it down your throat. She is the woman. One badass woman is being replaced with another badass woman. And NXT and Triple H want a badass fucking legit contender as NXT Women's Champion. They got it. And the best part of it all is that Rhea Ripley has been such a badass that that's all you expect from her. But in this role tonight, she took that badass role, and WWE produced a match in which not only she was badass, but she played Johnny Gargano slightly as well, playing that badass yet come from behind underdog babyface. And you mix both of them together, and it made for beautiful magic last night on NXT. Can't really say anything bad about this. Now, they did throw literally everything at this match to get Rhea Ripley over and to really solidify her championship reign. I look at situations like that with the horsewomen coming down and her fighting off the horsewomen. Then the referee gets knocked down and she gets DDT'd on the chair. Then she's in the Kirifuda clutch for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes almost. Her eyes are rolling in the back of her head to a point where she's grabbing the referee and is threatening him, if you fucking ring that bell, motherfucker, I'm gonna kill you. And then she gets right up from the Kirifuda clutch, and before you know it, she's the NXT Women's Champion. I see shit like that, and normally it bothers me, because it's just too much. Like, we get it. She is your champion. She is your chosen one now. We get it. You don't need to go through all the bells and whistles to get her over in this way, because it comes off cringe, but I know why they got to do it, because they want to make her to be a believable threat in the women's division. But it's NXT. I can't really shit on NXT. If this was done on the main roster, I probably would have shit on it, but Rhea Ripley has been so enjoyable in the run that she's been on. I can't really hate on it, and I know why NXT did it. The match itself was fine, but everything that was important into this match was in the end. This was the last closing sequence of this match, around 10 minutes or so left in the match. The match went 20. So we got the horsewomen coming out, and they're outside. Rhea Ripley seen them, and they jumped on the apron. Rhea Ripley took them out, and she focused more on the horsewomen at this point than Shayna Baszler, which I don't know why. Rolling senton by Rhea Ripley to Duke and Shafir on the outside. Shayna was there, and she hit a punt kick to Ripley's jaw. Baszler then took Ripley's arm and stomped her arm and her elbow right on the steel steps. That was the point of this, building to the Kirifuda clutch. Ripley reached the ring at a 5 count after this spot on the steel steps. Shayna wrenched Ripley's arm, worked on her arm and her left hand, her fingers and everything. She was really going to work, and this was her opening in this match. Ripley was screaming to a point where you physically felt that she was in pain. And I love the sell job here by Rhea Ripley, screaming, because that's what one should do when you're in the clutches of Shayna Baszler, who is someone who could tap you out just like that. Not just because you're injured, on any given situation. She could tap you out. 100% or 50%, it doesn't matter. So, Baszler here with control. We go to commercial break. During the break, Duke and Shafir were thrown out. They were not around ringside anymore. The referee, I assume, threw them out of the ringside area. We were down to one-on-one. Doctors, there's another situation. Doctors came to check out Rhea Ripley, as if she could still go. So they teased the match being stopped because she was so hurt. Right? Another instance in which they threw everything at her to get her over in this babyface role, underdog babyface role. So the doctor's out there checking on Rhea. They're back in the ring. Shayna's kicking Rhea's bad arm, then her chest. Rhea caught Shayna's leg. Went for the riptide, but it got reversed. Rhea threw Shayna back. Took out the referee in the same instance. The referee is now down. She hits the riptide. Crowd is counting to 10. Rhea Ripley got up. She realized the referee was down. Obviously, she realized that a long time ago before that, but she went to go wake the referee, and Rhea and Shayna Baszler were on the outside, and they rammed each other into the barricade. Baszler took control, grabbed the chair, put it in the ring. Rhea and Shayna were fighting over the chair. Rhea went for it. Shayna ended up DDTing Rhea Ripley on the chair. The referee, obviously at this point, came back to life, seen the cover by Shayna on top of the steel chair. 1, 2, kick out. Rhea Ripley kicks out. And she was planted with that DDT, by the way. Cure for the clutch. Escaped. Shayna hit it again. Rhea got to her knees. Crawled over to the ropes. Shayna was able to pull back into the middle of the ring. And Rhea, at this point, was done. Fading. Her eyes rolling in the back of the head. She got to her knees. Got near the rope. But Shayna rolled back into the Cure for the clutch again, man. They went to the fucking edge of the earth to get this woman over in this situation, man. This is some great shit. Crowd tried to get their just Rhea Ripley chants in. They were just begging for Rhea Ripley to get out of this thing. So the ref started lifting Rhea's arm. She grabbed the referee by his fucking throat, by his shirt, and she looked at him and said, "Motherfucker, if you drop my arm again, or if you fucking ring this bell, I'm going to beat the shit out of you." Rhea escaped the Cure for the clutch. She was in this hold for about a minute and a half, probably 2 minutes, and she got up after this and no-sold the Cure for the clutch. She wasn't on wobbly legs. She wasn't weak from the fucking effects of the Cure for the clutch. She just got up and went right to the ending of the match. And I'm like, come on now. Like, I can understand the steel chair. I can understand the horsewoman. I can understand the doctor. I can understand the referee being knocked out. But you're in that clutch and you get right up and no-sell it? Come on, dude. That's a move that, obviously, they protected for 2 years. And they're going to do that. I hope they do the same thing on the main roster. But Rhea Ripley got up as if the clutch wasn't even applied. Rhea escaped. She trapped Shayna in the prism. Shayna turned it around, dropkicked Ripley into the corner. She took Ripley up in the corner, waited too long, headbutt, up top. Shayna was put into a avalanche riptide off the second turnbuckle. One of the biggest pops in Full Sail all year. Rhea Ripley pins Shayna Baszler 1, 2, 3, and she's the new NXT Women's Champion. Rhea Ripley sold the big win. She was slamming the mat. She took off her chain around her neck. She was so happy to win the NXT Women's Championship. This was a great payoff. Shayna Baszler had such an unbelievable run as NXT Women's Champion. Such a dominating reign. And this is what happens when you have champions who have reigns like this. You could fucking tout Charlotte having 10 title reigns to the fucking end of the earth. I'm gonna have my ears fucking like this. I don't want to hear any of you. When Charlotte has 10 reigns and she loses the title, it means nothing. Shayna Baszler had 2 reigns. Which, by the way, they're bragging that she now has the longest reign in NXT history over Asuka. That's not the case. It's not the case. She has 2 reigns, combined title days held, more than Asuka. Asuka had 1 reign. So you're automatically admitting that Shayna Baszler's record and reign, or reigns, is less than Asuka, just by that. Nobody's touching Asuka's reign. That was the most dominant reign in NXT history, but I get it. And this is why I don't like WWE in these situations. They just erase records. They're so quick to beat records, right? Come on. Shayna's reign was so great, and you see the results of it, because would that have happened if Shayna had a 1-month title reign, or a 2-month title reign, 6-month title reign? No. The fact that she's been so dominating for so long made for that moment. This is why you need to start appreciating fucking champions. You need to start appreciating championships. You need to start booking your champions the way that they need to be booked. Moments like that are very few and far between. I love the moment, even though it was... And I really can't say it's overdone because I love Johnny Gargano's fucking win at TakeOver New York, so who am I to say? This was awesome. This was awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing what Rhea Ripley does with that championship. I know Rhea Ripley's bound for the main roster. I don't know how long her reign is going to be. I don't. She could hold the title for a year. You know? Listen, she's 23 years old. What's the fucking rush? You could give her a 2-year title reign if you want to. She'll be 25, 26 by the time she makes the main roster. Plenty of time for her to be on Raw and SmackDown. And do you really want her on Raw and SmackDown now with the current state of the fucking division in the state that it's in? You want her on Raw and SmackDown with Vince McMahon running chaos? I don't think so. The longer she stays in NXT, the better off she's going to be. Believe me. The one I feel bad for is Shayna Baszler. This was awesome. Great match, great payoff. One of the best reigns in all of NXT history with Shayna Baszler. That's what made the moments. The psychology of the match with the arm and everything that went into it was great. It made for a big fucking moment and a big feel. Rhea Ripley has done so much since October. So much to see her where she is now, man. The ride has been awesome, and the progression is a thing of beauty. It's why we love pro wrestling. And the only thing I would have done differently is the fact that I would have focused on Rhea Ripley a little bit more. They went right to the instant replay, showing you what happened in the match. I wanted to see Rhea in the moment. By the time the replays were done, the entire NXT ring was filled with everybody in the locker room. Fans were in the ring. It was one big parade. They held Rhea Ripley on their shoulders, and that's the way NXT went off the air. So, Rhea Ripley is going to be the dominating force in the women's division for 2020. Shayna Baszler is probably going to be in the Royal Rumble, more than likely a match with Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. We are already halfway there. She is bound for the main roster. I don't know when she shows up. She could show up on Raw. She could show up in the Royal Rumble, and that'll be her debut. I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get there. This was a very wrestling-heavy show. We had 2 great matches in the beginning and the end. Very wrestling-heavy show. Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor was planted for TakeOver. Rhea Ripley wins the championship. Dakota Kai probably is going to be the first challenger for Rhea Ripley in the NXT Women's Division for 2020. Good stuff. Good stuff. NXT continues to kill it every single week. Thank you guys so very much for all of your support. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up. Follow me on social media at JD from NY206. That is on Twitter and Instagram. Check out the other content that I've linked for you guys. Easy access down in the description of this video. I'll see you guys tonight around 7:30, 8 o'clock with Luigi's Mansion Part 3. Some entertaining stuff there if you're into that video game type of stuff. I love playing some video games. I want to diversify the channel going into 2020, so I don't know what I'm going to be doing as far as that goes. But if you enjoyed the video here today, hit that thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. And if you made it to the end, of the video, hashtag me down below, Rhea Ripley. Make sure you guys use the hashtag Rhea Ripley down below. Guys, I'm getting out of here. I'll see you later tonight for Luigi's Mansion. I'll see you right back here tomorrow afternoon for Off the Script 305, part number 1. Till then, have a great day. This is the #1 podcast right here on YouTube in the wrestling community. This is Off the Script. And like I said, I'll see you on Friday afternoon with OTS 305.